Commander Shepard, and the Unnamed Games podcast is my favorite podcast on the Citadel. Shepard out.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the internet, and welcome to episode 48 of the Unnamed Games podcast. I am hosting for a second week in a row. As you may recall, last week, Craig took a week off because he was shaving his legs. Unfortunately, he had a horrific shaving accident. And he's had to take a second week off. Lost a leg or a toe.
He went too high, man. He just went too high.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, maybe it was just unnecessary chafing and it got a bit uncomfortable. So he's taken another week off, but it's okay. Because I am
Mental images I never needed. Mental images I never needed, boys. Never.
Take them home, stick it in the bank.
Yeah.
It's all good.
What bank? Let's move on. Swiftly move on. I'm not sure what bank you're talking about.
Moving very, very, very swiftly on, please.
Indeed, yes. And as you can hear from the voices to my side and below, I have Mr. Thunderlips McQueen. How are we doing, Alan?
I'm not going to lie. I am ridiculously tired today. I've just got back from a day out with Craig and his older son, Ryan. And we went to Norwich to a retro video store there, which was absolutely awesome. And I've rushed back and I'm absolutely shattered. So if I'm a bit off my game, I apologise in advance. But let's do this for Game Face.
It's a good game
It's all right, Alan. It's all right, Alan. I'm knackered too, mate.
Everybody's tired. I had to work all day today.
Can we just dub this one as the Unnamed Games podcast, episode 48? Was it the Tiredcast?
The Tiredcast.
I
can make that work. I'll work down to the title. I
have like my third cup of coffee right now because like I can't just function.
Yeah.
And the third voice you're hearing is Mr. Chris Rats to Tweets. Oh. He's here. He's going to tell us about some exciting things in a moment.
Hello, so, sorry, mate. I completely jumped all over you introducing me there, didn't I? I just steamed in and started talking. You hadn't even said, "Oh, Chris is here," and I went, "Let me just waffle on for ages." Yeah, I'm good.
It's good, man. You know what? I don't care. I'm happy.
I'm like Alan.
I'm happy. I'm
tired and a bit off cam. I'm not my usual self, so there probably haven't many sweary rants this week. So apologies if you enjoyed the sweary rant, and apologies to everyone. I'm offended for my sweary rant, but I stand by what I said.
We have attempted to select less controversial. Wait, no, that's not right.
Yeah.
We have selected some topics this week to talk about, but first and foremost, I want to find out what you guys have been up to, and I'm going to go to Thunderlips McQueen first.
Oh, you picked me first this
there
week.
We go. I don't want to keep your fans waiting any longer.
I think it was fan, but still, anyway. But thanks. So I'm glad you asked me that, Phil. I am glad you asked me that. First of all, I'd just like to say a little bit of a sadness. This week saw the passing of Sean Locke. Very sad moment. Yeah. Great comedian. Enjoyed him immensely. Passed away, 58, down with cancer. It's a real sad loss, and that was not a good.
I'd like to echo
feelings
that.
With his family, feelings with his family and loved ones, and for all of us, it's a loss. You don't bandy around the words national treasure very often, but as far as comedians go, he was the top.
So, a comedy genius, mate. Comedy genius. I don't use that term lightly, but like he just would say 3 words, and that clip I sent you where he said one thing completely unsuitable for our podcast. But oh my god, like he just killed me every time. He was one of the greatest comedians. His timing,
it was the deadpan. It was the way his delivery was superb. If I pride myself on being a little bit sarcastic occasionally, you may have noticed. But his sarcasm and his dry wit, I've had a tiny percentage of his talent in those departments. I'd be doing it as a living. So it's a great loss to all of us and very, very sad. But I have spent a lot of this week watching Sean Locke videos. Tiredcast does countdown on YouTube. It's a rabbit hole, is what it is. It's just genius.
One came up, which I hadn't seen in years, and I'd forgotten how brilliant it was. I think it's from a Christmas special where he did the countdown, and he was like, his children's book, The Tiger That Came for a Pint. If you haven't seen it on YouTube, I
remember that one.
Unlock The Tiger That Came for a Pint. It is,
my favourite joke of his is simply 3 words. That's a challenging wank. That's 4 words. Sorry, but that was still, that's all I'm going to say. That's all. That had me hysterics. I couldn't get off the floor. The guy, it's
The carrot as well. The carrot,
carrot game,
carrot in a box. Carrot in a box is just but he genuinely there are certain comedians who I know I'm going to feel the loss of, and that was a real shock. But like, it's left a big hole for me. Like, the world feels less joyous, and like Phil used that term. You can feel the joy leaving the world, and it's so true of him. Like, that man was just funny to his core. He was brilliant
and nice. Apparently, everybody who worked with him said he was a lovely guy.
Yeah,
but so that's sad. But let's move on. And what else have I been up to this week? I played some Magic the Gathering, Craig and Ellie. I won't go into that too much.
Of course,
we'll talk about that a lot. Also played some City Skylines. My city of Castle Rock is now up to 120,000 citizens.
Nice.
And I've had to redo the whole train system, which was expensive, I'm not going to tell you. And for most people, if I was actually streaming it, incredibly boring. So it's probably a good job I didn't stream it. So, but I'm loving the city. It's moving along. And I tell you what came on a Game Pass this week. And I haven't played a huge amount, but I played Quake. Now, it came onto Game Pass, and I believe on the consoles, the original Quake is available. And I didn't realise it had been ported, to be honest, to the consoles. And it looks pretty damn good for its age, considering how old a game it is. I mean, we're talking ancient times old here, so it's obviously been remastered at some point. The controls, for the most part, are okay, because it was one of the first games that actually started to use strafing and things like that. However, one of the things is the firing. You can fire above what you're shooting and still get them. But once you just ignore that, it's my favourite of id Games. It really, really is. I've always said that. When they went to Quake 2 and they brought in the Strog, I know a lot of people are fans, but I love the ethos of the Quake 1. Absolutely phenomenal, and I love it. And I wish they would remaster this one, not Strog, this one. You're going to say, Chris?
I was going to say, the only thing I think I really liked about Quake 2 over Quake in terms of a game was Quake was just an assemblance of levels you would progress through, like Doom was to a degree. It was just like, here's a level, get from A to B, kill things. With when they introduced Quake 2, you had a far more structured mission. It came off the back of, like, I think GoldenEye had released on the 64, and GoldenEye had these structured missions where you had to go to a place, do a thing, and that allowed you to do another thing. And that was way more prevalent in Quake 2, and it was much more... The missions were more designed around like an entertaining and narrative campaign.
Quake is an A-to-B shooter, isn't it?
Quake has such a great atmosphere and and just feeling about it. Like, firing it back up, I'd forgotten how good it was. Like you say, it was a revolutionary game. First true 3D.
Yeah, I remember telling this story before, because it's when a long time ago. Obviously, I can't remember the exact dates, but I was playing Duke Nukem 3D, and that was the big game that came out, and it was like it was awesome, the humor and the gameplay and everything. And then 30 days later, Quake came out, literally a month, and everybody just completely forgot about Duke Nukem 3D because it had flat sprites, and now we all of a sudden had 3D models, and we had strafing, for goodness sake. I remember trying to get the hang of strafing, trying to understand this concept of being able to move sideways while shoot. It was like black magic at the time. It was like I couldn't. It sounds ridiculous now. Yeah. I put on a game like a while ago with Soldier of Fortune, and it didn't have strafing, and I was like, "You mean I have to turn on the spot? What? This is madness."
I remember trying to play the original Soldier of Fortune just because it was hella gory, like you shoot people in the head and the brains popped out the back. But yeah, I tried to play Soldier of Fortune 2. It wasn't even that long ago, and again, that's another game. It feels like it's locked in place. You're like, I can't move left. Yeah. What's going on?
I know. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
It's weird, isn't it? Weird what you remember, because I remember with Quake. Because I was a big Doom fan back in the day, and me and my buddy, a guy called Adi at the time, we'd spent months working on a patch for Doom, which was an Aliens patch. So I'd hand drawn all these sprites for Aliens. We'd redrawn all the guns, imported all the sounds, because you could do all that in Doom. You had the ability to mod it quite hard, and just as we just about got it ready to go, like Quake came along, and it was like, oh, well, this exists now. No one's going to want to play our patch for Doom, are they? And it was, but we were super excited about the idea of modding that because of the fact because there were lots of things we wanted to do, and when we were mapping out the levels we wanted to design for Aliens that we couldn't do because we didn't have a true 3D environment. You couldn't have sectors above sectors in Doom. You had to have like
things with Quake.
So now you couldn't. It was like the ideas for us suddenly became this thing. So we kind of snowballed into looking at modding Quake and then realizing that was nowhere near as simple as modding Doom, and then it kind of just fell by the wayside.
On the console, I believe it's just Quake, but on the PC, you can get Quake, Quake 2, and Quake Arena. And it was Quake 2, if I remember rightly, that I really got into the multiplayer side of things many eons ago. They had grapple hooks, different mods, and it was really where the modding community really got its claws into it for the first time. And as a game, the multiplayer was great to start off with. Capture the Flag was really born there. You know, all sorts of game modes were first created, which had never been seen before. It was the first sort of, in a sense, that kind of multiplayer with so many different options that the community created and brought in that people could play. And it was just massive for an awful long time. I don't know whether a lot of those mods are still available, but on the Xbox version, all of the DLC content is available. And I think there's about 3, 4, even 5 DLCs for the actual base after the base game for Quake. So there's a hell of a lot of content there as well. Very happy to see that come onto Game Pass. Did you have something extra to add, Phil?
Yeah, I was to say, didn't they eventually lead to the Unreal Tournament games?
Yes. Well, they were in competition, so you kind of had.
But I think Quake basically spawned that whole. Yeah. Well, Doom was the first deathmatch game, right? And well, probably not the first ever, but you know, I mean, like I know it was the first internet deathmatch.
It was the first sensational one.
And then kind of when Quake came along, it brought even more to the table. I think that spurred on Unreal with Unreal Tournament, because we had an Unreal game, which was
that was awesome. I loved the
and
Unreal
then Tournament
game.
came, didn't it?
And then they got Unreal Tournament on the back, and then you had I can't remember. I think it was Unreal Tournament 3 was the direct competition to Quake Arena.
That sounds right.
And Unreal Tournament 3 was also phenomenal. I just remember they gave away.
That had the real verticalness to it, didn't it?
Yes, it did. They gave away a level as a freebie that you could play, which was like on top of the 3 skyscrapers in Unreal Tournament 3. And I never bought the game for like 6 months. I just used to play that level over and over and over, getting the Redeemer and firing and directing it into.
I just remember the
phenomenal.
Was it the buzzsaw where you could fire the blades out of it and try and behead people with it? That was like, I always lost, but that's because I only went for the buzzsaw trying to behead people.
Back in the day when I had the reactions to play multiplayer games like Quake 2 and Unreal Tournament 3, but it was like it brought back so many memories. And still playing like Quake and playing like I just played the first 3 levels because I was playing quite a lot this week and was quite busy. But it's just like I just remember all the secrets are like coming back to me. It's like first area 6 out of 6 secrets, second area I missed one 5 out of 6. I have to go back and try that again, and because they're just riddled with these secret areas with like quad damage and all this sort of stuff. So cool, so lovely. And moving on, the last game that I played this week, there's quite a lot of games I played this week, was a game called RimWorld, and I bought it a while ago on Steam, and it was something that I picked up and sort of seen flying around, and I thought it might be interesting to me, and I've played about 3.5, 4 hours on it, and I have to say it is most definitely my next ridiculous obsession. It is. It has all of the key components. Look, there's somebody chopping a tree down. Oh, you have to build buildings. It's a survival game in everything but name. It's all about getting some people. You've got to build a base. You've got to fight off bandits and pirates. You have to explore. There's a whole world to explore. You have one map that you kind of build, but you can build a caravan and move to other maps. There's disasters. You can see the whole place burning down on the video. There's so much content to it. The depth on it is just ridiculous. And at first I thought, well, it's kind of got like Prison Architect type graphics. And, sometimes I can be a bit of a graphics snob, I do admit, although I always say graphics aren't the most important thing. And they certainly aren't with this game. However, it still has a beauty all of its own sometimes when you're playing it and you built up a little base and there's lighting and it's all glowing different colours and things are happening. It's just got it does look at a special
Did
kind
it just throw up? Brilliant.
Yeah. There's
Greg's a lonely man, it would seem. He's going for a swim.
I'm actually playing it on Iron Man mode, but I don't normally do that. But I do like the idea of literally all it does is it only saves when I log out after each session. So if anything happens during my play session, like somebody dies, if I lose my medic, I've lost my medic. I can't go back to another save. and it kind of adds this urgency to the gameplay. It's kind of like, I've got to take care of this particular character, and we need to recruit more and build up. There's technological research and progress. You've got to create food or hunt food. Random events happen. There's almost like a director that actually get choice of 3 different directors that do various different things, different levels of difficulty. It is most definitely my next huge obsession, but I'm not going too deep down the rabbit hole right now because I'm very aware that in 5 weeks New World comes out again, and I'm going to be spending a ridiculous amount of time on that. So I'm just kind of playing around at the minute for my first game, and then when I've kind of had my fill of like New World, I'm going to go back, and that's when we're going to, every week you'll hear an update on my colony in RimWorld. I guarantee you that's what it will be. So that's all the games I've been playing. And one final thing before we move on to Chris, I've watched the only thing I've watched on TV this week actually is the next episode of What If, which this particular week's was the T'Challa episode. So the What If is, what if they actually abducted T'Challa, the Black Panther, well, obviously not the Black Panther because he never makes it to that, instead of Peter Quill, and T'Challa becomes Star-Lord. And again, it's phenomenally fun. It's great. I really, really enjoyed it. Some of the cast on this, it's just ridiculous. I'll just read down the list here of what names they got to actually do the names. Chadwick Boseman, rest his soul, Karen Gillan, Michael Rooker, Djimon Hounsou, Josh Brolin, Benicio del Toro, Kurt Russell, who literally does 1 or 2 lines, Sean Gunn, Seth Green. I mean, it's like I think the only person they didn't get is Peter Quill. They didn't get,
they didn't get Drax wasn't done by Dave Bautista because there was a bit of a hoo-ha about that.
I remember reading about that. Yeah. It did sound just like him, though, to be fair.
It was close. It was close.
Yeah,
I mean, sorry, I was like, oh yeah, it's definitely not. But it was a very good impression compared to the guy who did it.
Yeah, really good impression. But it's just like and I think I preferred this episode to the first one. Not say, as I said last week, and not that I didn't like the first one. It's just this one I felt the story was more fun and had a lot. I mean, seeing like Thanos there and actually being part of their crew and they have this. I'm not going to give away too much, but they keep going on about his idea about having destroying half.
It was efficient.
I think you'll find that's genocide. It was efficient, is what it was, and it's random, so it's not genocide. So it's like it's quite funny. It's tongue in cheek, and it knows what it is. It's a bit of a heist thing, and I think Benicio del Toro probably had the most fun in it because he was able to actually be more of the collector character in the cartoons.
Yeah, he got something to do this time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In the films, he was a little bit subdued, wasn't he? He didn't feel like he was the collector a little bit. He looked like him, but
it was nothing of him. It just kind of he was there to facilitate a transaction, and that was it.
Whereas in this, he was let
a major
loose.
Part.
And he was the collector, and he was brilliant. But overall, I really, really loved it. And if you haven't watched it yet, it's on Disney Plus. A couple of episodes now. Would definitely
recommend. Every Wednesday, isn't it? It's every Wednesday.
Yeah, I keep forgetting. I kind of love hate when it comes out on a Wednesday because it's always like I get to like Thursday and I think, oh crap, I haven't watched it because Friday is always the day I check. So yes, it's Wednesdays.
Yeah, it's. I watched the pair of them. I watched both of them this week. Actually, I've got to say one thing that you haven't touched on. I think I put in the chat was what's blown me. One thing I really like is I love the animation art style they've gone for.
Yeah.
In the What If. It's beautifully. I mean, you'd expect, as I said to you guys, you'd expect Disney to absolutely slay it in animation. It's Disney. That's their bread and butter, isn't it? But they really do knock it out of the park. It's beautifully animated. They're just the whole like look and feel of the show is great. It feels unique. I think the second episode is far more successful, like you, Alan. I think probably because it takes a much bigger risk than the first episode. The first episode feels like a very obvious rewrite of what would happen if A happened instead of B happened. Do you know what I mean?
It's true. I mean, even down to the fact that at the end of the first episode, the same thing happens to Captain America that happens in the other timeline.
Yes.
So it's almost like they're just supplanting the bad thing that happens for another character. Whereas in this one, it was a standalone story just with different Star-Lord.
And I really like the ending where you had that might mean the world's going to end in a minute, but that's just and it was like I won't say obviously what happens, but it was quite a nice way to end it. But I thought the whole thing wasn't both of them have been quite fun little things, nice little distraction. It's not something I would say, oh my god, you've got to see it, but I would say, hey, if you've got 20 minutes, half hour to kill, you want to watch something quite fun,
you won't be disappointed.
They're fun.
You know what they are fun. they're perfect lunchtime and dinner time watching. Like they're just the
they're
right
just good.
length to sit there and eat your dinner or have your sandwich and watch them, and you're going to feel pretty satisfied at the end of it.
But still, really impressed they got Kurt Russell to literally.
And I have to say, I think that one thing I will say from the episode as well, like I really thought not Kurt Russell, Michael Rooker. I mean, he's brilliant in everything, but he's absolutely superb in this as a voice actor. Absolutely knocks it out of the park. I mean, they were all good, but like he really
they've got James Gunn in there. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's like these characters, these actors are like, do you want to go and do a few lines in a cartoon we're doing for that character? Oh yeah, I'll go do that. Yeah, all right.
It's like Stanley in his cameos. I've just got thousands of them saved up ready. It's like
it's really good. Definitely worth a watch. 100%. I definitely agree with Alan. Definitely worth spending your time on it.
Come on, let's not make a habit of that.
Thank you for
controversy.
Thank you for the update, Alan. Your fans will be very much appreciative of it, and they'll look forward to your RimWorld updates. Go on, Chris, you've been quite vocal, sir. What have you been up to this week? Talk to me.
Not a huge amount, because I've been like commissioning. I've got a commission I'm finishing up, which you guys have seen, but I can't show anyone else outside of a small group because it's for a surprise for somebody, and I don't want to. I don't know if that person watches, so don't want to spoil their surprise. So, at least we said. But it's sort of driven me down a few things. I've been watching after having watched Master of the Universe Revelations. I didn't talk about because the week I watched it, I was off the pod, and I don't think anyone's talked about it yet. I watched the first half of the 10-episode run of Master of the Universe Revelations a couple of weeks back. And I mean, like everyone, I have thoughts on it. I'm not a hater of it, but I do think they have a really stupid. They put 5 of the 10 episodes up, and they end it at episode 5 for a cliffhanger. Like, wait for the next 5 in a really stupid place. Yeah, in a place that was only ever going to absolutely wind everyone up.
I've watched the same 5 episodes as you, and I just got to the end of it. I was like, well, that just sucks. As a general rule, like obviously I watch a lot of anime, and I normally will not watch something if it's a current ongoing series, because inevitably I will catch up to it at a point when something happens and I'm going to be like, I need to know. And then it makes my brain itch.
I think the problem with it is as well, is like at the minute with where they leave it, it is a point where it is incredibly frustrating considering what they've put you through in the first half of the season to pull you to that point and then drop you there. It's a real misstep in terms of reading what you think was going to happen, because you're not going to generate like the kind of buzz you want from it. You're just going to generate hate from it. And I can understand why there's so much hate, because I can totally see what the conclusions people are going to draw from this and why it's going to just narc everyone off. So, yeah, I mean, like I say, not a fan of where they ended that. It left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. Not that I don't want to jump on that train of like haters who hated it and said, oh, it was bad, and like, being all woke and all that nonsense they keep spouting, these, people on the internet who are just like, want to hate on these things.
Snowflake warriors.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not. It's not that at all. My complaint is more. I loved it up until the last episode. Then I was like, that was stupid. That was so dumb to leave it there. So that's my problem with it.
I think it's good quality animation. Like they've clearly spent some money on that as
great.
Well. The story runs well. They just picked a bad point. Like somebody somewhere made a decision, and I don't think it was anybody who was writing the story who said, yeah, we should stop it here. Somebody's got, no, needs to stop here because we want to release the other 5 episodes.
I do wonder, though, actually, having said that, I had a thought maybe what they've done is they've split it down the middle because they've got 2 alternate like endings for it. They've got like they can go A or B, and they want to see like what the read is on it and see if they go either way. I don't know. But who knows, right? Who knows? Anyway, moving on from that, what I was leading to from Master Universe Revelation is I have been watching loads of old school He-Man, because old school He-Man is the bomb.
Just one second, I'll stop you there. I have the power.
I thought you were going to pull me up and say that it isn't in fact He-Man, it's He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, which of course it is. I'd forgotten how campy and brilliant like He-Man and the Master Universe is. Like,
so campy.
It is so silly and so much fun, and I absolutely love it. And it's so daft. Like, Cringer is just like, it's just kind of like Orko, and he's done magic tricks, etc. I just, it's been one of those great, like, have it on in the background while I was doing work and painting and stuff, and just like have a little bit of a background noise, but occasionally just catching like bits of it and going, oh, that's so wonderfully brilliant. And like the little like after school moment, where it goes, remember kids, or something like that at the end of each episode. It's always what we learned today was, and I'm just like, oh, absolutely love it. It's brilliant. And Skeletor is such a great bad guy in it as well. Like it's one of these cast lists that, if you listen to the heroes and the villains, you've got, He-Man, Teela, Man-at-Arms, Orko, Cringer and Battle Cat, all great characters. And then you've got the supporting ones like Stratos and, Ram Man, all that. And then Skeletor is such a great bad guy. He's so animated and like stupid and like, but brilliant and kind of evil. And then you bring in Evelyn and you bring in, like a Cyclops and all these people. And it's like, it's so cool. Trapjaw. I loved it. They were brilliant. And they were all just made to sell toys to children, admittedly, but absolutely brilliant, like casting on or character list on Masters of the Universe. It was just a great show, and and it's made me think that next week I'm going to try and find my copy of the Masters of the Universe movie from, I think, 1989 with Dolph Lundgren. Because that's
the live action one.
I don't care what anyone says. That's a great film.
It's a great film in the way that the first Street Fighter movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme is a great movie.
Well, actually, the one thing that both of them have in common is a really great bad guy. Raul Julia is amazing as Bison in the Street Fighter movie. And Frank Langella is so good as Skeletor in the Master Universe movie. So I do want to kind of get back out, have another watch.
But there is some serious cheese in there.
Oh god, yeah. Oh god,
but that it kind of almost makes it, I suppose.
Yeah, it's I think it's because like obviously growing up on He-Man, I remember like it being a thing to watch. I distinctly remember like we were the first family in the street to rent Master Universe when it came out on video back in the day, which will be a really foreign concept if we've got younger listeners like who'll go, you rented a video? And like, what's a video? We had it on VHS.
We were trying to explain this to Ryan earlier on today, actually, about the fact I used to be the manager of Choices Video in Bury St Edmunds. It's like, videos? Well, that's what we used to do. It was like streaming, but you had to buy them in individual cassettes, and you could have it for 3 days, and then you had to take it back.
And do you remember that? I used to be that mad rush for a new film would come out, and everyone would just rush to the video shop. You probably get this really well to reserve the copy or get the copy before it went out because there was only
I used
so
to go
many
to
copies.
watch it before because they always used to come in 2 or 3 days before. So I've already watched all the new movies.
But there was
a great job.
It was that thing where people would come in and go, have you got this one to rent? You'd be like, no, we've only had like 20 copies. And they're all out or what have you. Yeah, it was that constant thing of trying to find the film you wanted to watch. So you had to be there for everyone else or you wouldn't get to watch it, So it's a very foreign concept to people. Like the whole idea will seem so weird to people, I think.
Nowadays, we can all watch Tomorrow's War at exactly the same time. Great.
And be equally disappointed all at the same time.
Yeah. Things have definitely got worse.
Just before the reviews come out so that nobody knows it's bad until we've all watched it.
But this is and this is the thing, like I talk about this, and I was saying about Master Universe. I remember renting it on VHS. Now VHS, as we will recall, had pretty shoddy quality when you look back on it. The image was very fuzzy, the sound was
480 lines.
Didn't have a stereo TV. It was only 21 inches, like in the living room. That was the biggest TV in the house. And I lied, 24 inches. Sorry, we upgraded to 24 inches.
Mate, 24 inch. I had to live on like an 18, I think it was.
24. My dad liked his TV. It was our big.
Nobody knows your struggle, do they? Nobody knows your struggle. 24 inches. That's all you had,
mate. I remember working for Currys.
Size isn't the most important thing, Alan. I
remember working for Currys and getting a bargain on this Sony 32-inch, like the first widescreen Sony. I can't remember how much it was, and then. It was so heavy because it was cathode ray. I couldn't lift it on my own. And to get it up the stairs to my bedroom, bearing in mind this TV weighed, I think, about 65 kilos. So the equivalent of a washing machine in current terms. And I had to lay it on the screen and then I had to push it up the stairs because I couldn't lift it. And I got it into my room and stood it up. And I had to wait 3 hours until my dad got home to give me a hand to lift it onto a stand.
They were as wide as they were big, weren't they? They were just like that's so wide and heavy. It's just
in current terms, we would call it a unit.
But as I was saying, I remember renting it, and we had every kid in the street watching Master Universe on a 21-inch color TV from a VHS cassette. And I often say to people, you don't know how good we've got it now. When you think about, we moan about it not being in 4K or whatever. It's like it was perfectly good enough. It was perfectly good enough to watch Master Universe and enjoy it. It always sticks in my head, that particular one. But I tell you, actually, bizarrely, I've forgotten I watched something earlier this week. Actually, and I was going to mention because the video rental thing spurred me back onto it. Is I watched Captain Marvel this week. I've never watched it before, and I will give. I don't really want to dwell on it because I was thoroughly unimpressed with that movie. From the whole thing, it felt so horribly generic and very dull. Like Samuel L. Jackson propped that movie up from start to finish. He was great in it. The rest of that movie just felt really flat to me. But yeah,
I found that was a great switch your brain off and just watch it. Thought it had some good.
Nothing happens in it. It's so dull. It's so dull.
She flies through a ship, but.
Yeah,
let's not spoil the punchline of the whole movie because that's basically it.
but like, I just didn't care about anything that happened in the entire movie, other than how Samuel L. Jackson got the gammy eye. That was about all I cared about.
That was a good gag. Let's be honest. That was a good.
Yeah, I like the cat. I will say I like the cat.
I'll be honest.
The cat's name is.
I forgot now, but I want to know what happened to the cat. Like, where is the cat now in the current universe? Like, that's a key point that was never answered.
That's about the only thing that I did care about the whole movie was the cat. The cat was great, but yeah. Anyway, moving on from that, the other, excuse me, roll the trailer, Phil. I watched Hot Shots today, and if you've never seen Hot Shots, imagine the Naked Gun movies crossed with Top Gun, and you have Hot Shots. It's absolutely brilliant. It is one of the funniest films I've seen, and I've forgotten just how brilliant it was. Like, the whole thing is so dumb. There are so many good gags that I'd forgotten in it as well. It's like, it is just full of these great little one-line throwaway gags that just make the film thing. It's just I can't stress enough how much fun this film is. If you just want a silly situation, if you like that kind of slapstick Naked Gun thing and you've not seen it, if you love Naked Gun movies, you'll love this. It's every bit as good. And there is a second one as well, and the second one is also fantastic. They're two really, really, really good films. In fact,
why is people falling off stuff so funny? All I've done is watch people fall off things.
I don't know why,
and laugh my arse off.
They do it so well, don't they?
Yeah.
They do it so well. They're just that instant slapstick comedy.
I like to consider myself a semi-cultivated man, but then I watch some man go to run for a football and fly a pitch, and I'm laughing till there are tears in my eyes. I don't know what is it with that.
It's a film which I also will say this for Hot Shots. If you've never seen it, Hot Shots has one of the greatest sex scenes in any movie ever. It's so utterly ridiculous. If you've never seen it, like, just genuinely, like, you'll understand what I mean once you've watched it. If you've never seen it, the sex scene is incredible. It's just
search for it, kids.
Don't
Remember,
YouTube
search
it.
For it. Sex scene.
I can tell you this: it is an entirely kid-friendly sex scene. Like, it's that stupid. It's that stupid. It's brilliant. It's genuinely brilliant.
Still, you probably shouldn't search it.
You should. Again, I wouldn't recommend. I'm not advocating that children go out and search that on YouTube because you never know what you might find. But it's the most silly.
Now? Yeah. I just saw him type on his keyboard and look left. Are you searching it now?
No, I'm actually doing research for the stuff you told me about earlier. No, I'm not.
So yeah, I would recommend Hot Shots and Hot Shots Part Deux to anybody. There's like, I've forgotten how much me and a couple of my friends at college used to quote like lines from the movie. Like, there's one in particular where someone gets like catapulted off the side of the aircraft carrier, like Alan was saying. It's quite funny. As he goes flying, he goes, "You can see my house from here." And I've forgotten how we used to just use that one loads. It's just like, it's so silly. But yeah, brilliant film. So yeah, I recommend that thoroughly. And I've done a tiny bit of gaming. I've played a bit more of The Ascent. I played a bit more Ghost Recon Breakpoint. I've been enjoying that. The classic moment from the other night where, in fact, last night, we needed to go to a base, and I decided to land the helicopter in the middle of the base under cover of night. And I landed it on a roof that was slanted like that, got out of it, and then the helicopter just slid down the entire roof, fell off the roof.
Did it make the screeching sound effects? Like, you're trying to be really stealthy, and it's just like...
It was like that. It was genuinely like that. Like, I landed at the highest point I could put the helicopter on the building, and just watched it kind of slide away, and I was like... And Brad had parachuted out and gone and tried and hid somewhere, who I was playing with, and I was just like, yeah, there's about to be an explosion. and Brad's exact response was, well, now I know there's a lot of people here, because he's got all the little exclamation marks popping up to tell you where people are. And apparently there was just like this sea of exclamation marks go up. And I was just like, okay, I didn't mean that to happen, but it worked. There you go. Yeah,
good
so
start
yeah,
to a
that was
stealth
a bit
mission.
of fun. Yeah, stealth is my number one characteristic, in case you hadn't noticed.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. Cool, fun. But that's been my week in a nutshell.
What about you,
Wonderful.
Phil? What have you been up to?
Well, thank you for asking, Alan. I really appreciate that. Nobody ever asked me. I just have to dip in and start talking.
That's not true. Craig asks you all the time when you're not hosting. Like, yeah.
That's not very often at the moment. Keeps injuring himself, shaving his legs.
Shaving injuries.
So most of my sort of consumption this week has actually been TV watching. So the first thing I went down.
Anyway, that's all the time we have for Phil.
That's the half-hour mark.
Here we go.
Sorry, Phil. Half hour's done.
I tried. I'm dropping the video in though. So Inside West Coast Customs got added to Netflix last week, and I briefly mentioned it because oh yeah, you've got that you can watch. And then I started watching it, and that ensued on about 4 episodes a day for 6 seasons worth. Where it's ever since I watched that, like from back in Pimp My Ride, and I didn't realize actually how massive West Coast Customs was as a brand. Like I was like, oh, they just did that Pimp My Ride and they make a few nice cars, and you watch it through the seasons, and then they get to the last season, they've got this massive like £1 million showroom effectively. They do the work. I was like, that is crazy.
Yep.
So that was quite a nice short watch. I enjoyed that. If you like modifying cars, or you just like cars, it's a good TV show to watch. Again, another fantastic lunchtime watch. That'd be my recommendation there. The next thing I did a bit of gaming. So I'm going to drop in my gaming, and I've got another bit of a movie at the end. So I then purchased, as of yesterday, Ghost of Tsushima, the director's cut.
Ooh.
And I would like to levy a complaint. For my sins, I bought the PlayStation 5 version. Yeah, so you can buy the DLC for, I think it's 18 quid. And then there was like a PlayStation 5 kind of upgrade, so to speak, they did earlier on in the season where they basically allowed you to play at 60 frames and 4K. And then they basically added in like the haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers and stuff. And you know what, an utter waste of time and £9 additional. I am livid. Like, the game does not look any better. The haptic adds absolutely nothing. And the adaptable triggers, I just ended up turning them off because they didn't add anything either. So I wasted £9 upgrading to the PC, the PS5 version. So that was an epic fail on my part. However, though, I did drop into the new bit of DLC, and you know what? It is true Ghost of Tsushima quality. The story starts off fantastic. You go over to Iki Island. There's a whole separate storyline, all new characters.
It looks awesome.
New skill to learn. That game is excellent. It's brilliant. I loved it. I've put 100 hours plus into that game, completing it. I went around hunting down all the fox dens and the saunas and unlocking and doing all the jewels and stuff like that. I absolutely love that game, and I thoroughly engrossed myself in the environment. And more DLC, brilliant. Don't waste your £9 on the DLC though.
I gotta say, that'll be if and when that comes to PC, that'll be an instant purchase for me. That one. There were 2 games from the last generation that I genuinely hand on heart say I wish I'd played from PlayStation. That was God of War and Ghost of Tsushima. And yeah, if either of those come to PC, they're an instant pickup for me, like 100%. I just can't justify buying a PlayStation just to play those 2 games, but I absolutely think that game looks staggering. Although, by the sound of things, disappointment on the PlayStation upgrade being a chargeable thing, really.
Basically, if you just had a PS4 Pro, if you had a PS5 and you just have the PS4 version of the game, it's as good. Because it looks just as good and it runs at 60 frames. And that's really all you need. The PS5 stuff, it's a bit like it's one of those things when we talked about the PS5 coming out with the adaptable triggers and the haptics, and it's going to be amazing, but maybe it's a gimmick. In this game, it is 100% a gimmick. It doesn't add anything to it. But otherwise, the game is brilliant. Highly recommend it. Just save yourself the £9, even if you have a PS5, because it will look exactly the same.
I did see that. I did watch a Digital Foundry video on it, and there are a few things they changed. But did you know they changed the save imports on it as well for PS5? You can just import the saves a lot easier now. Don't know if you noticed that.
Yes, yeah. So obviously, we're Xbox fans, so we're just used to the nice upgrades on there. It just works. Final Fantasy VII, you had to install or have the PS4 game in. You had to export your save, then download the PS5 version, then import it. If you had Doom, you couldn't even do it. I think they fixed it about a month later from Bethesda. It's been an absolute sham, the transferring the game saves across. But there was literally just an option in the menu that said import PS4 save, and it loads up the file browser, and you go, I want that save there, and it loads it and it works.
Which is a massive improvement over the last kerfuffle, but it's still, let's be honest, still kind of rubbish that you even have to do that. It's just not available to you straight off the bat, right? But I will say this, props to Sony for making that improvement and making that quality of life change, because it's definitely something they needed to look at. So good on them.
I hope this is the sign of things to come, and that it's going to continue being this easy to upgrade. But I'm sure there'll be some outliers that don't quite work. We shall see. So yeah, that was good. And my third thing that I watched this week, so it's actually on the 18th of this month, they released the fourth part of the remake of the Evangelion anime. And this is one of the earliest kind of animes I ever watched, and kind of really got me into it. Because it was just robot mecha. And, that's what I liked. It's fighting robots, fighting giant angel things. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, it starts off like all happy and it's just robots fighting out, and it gets proper dark and depressing as you go through, and then it just throws it out the window. I've deliberately picked the trailer for the first one because I don't want to spoil like the second and third, because it goes absolutely crazy towards the end of it. It makes zero sense, but still brilliant. So they've all gone onto Amazon Prime. So if you're a Prime subscriber, you can go on and watch that. If you're an anime fan, you should watch this, because it's like that original classic stuff. And they've the story is much more coherent in these remakes. They're about 2 hours long per episode. They feel quite fast paced. Like there's a lot happening all the time. It's like one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. If you watch the original anime series of it, which I have, it's much better pacing, because obviously, up to like episode 3 is supposed to over effectively 24 episodes. And then they did some standalone movies that kind of finished the story back then. But yeah, it's all on Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime exclusively have the fourth part of the series, so the fourth part of the remaster on there. And I'm now on part 3. I haven't watched part 4 yet, but I've watched the original. It's going to be great. It's still not going to make any sense to me, and I'm going to love it, because that's what I am. As you can see, it's just classic over-the-top anime. He runs there and he rugby tackles a giant monster in a 100-foot robot. Like, who doesn't love that?
Sound.
Absolutely. So that was my week. Thank you for asking, chaps. Look at that. We've made a solid 40 minutes just talking about stuff.
Get in.
I am not surprised. So first thing on the list of the news this week, and I'm going to go over to Alan, because you have some Halo news for us, don't you?
Well, I mean, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. So
okay, well, I'll let you decide how you want to do that.
I'm going to. So the good news is that Halo Infinite is still scheduled for a 2021 release, and it now has a confirmed date. The bad news is Halo Infinite on day launch won't have co-op campaign, and it won't have Forge, and we still haven't got a confirmed date. I lied about that part.
Yeah.
Boo hiss. So essentially,
there.
Yeah. So Joseph Staten, basically, his comment on this was, and I'll read it verbatim: as a studio, we don't want to ship things if they're not ready, so people can play them, have fun, have a nice, stable, performant experience. Good word that I'm going to remember, that performant. So we're going to keep campaign co-op and Forge in the oven for a little bit longer. And then when we're ready, we're going to release them as part of our seasonal roadmap next year. So that's the word from them, okay? So it's no longer going to release with cooperative campaign. Single-player campaign will still be there, and the multiplayer will still be there. I think that's no shock to any of us that the multiplayer is still going to be there. It is a live play service, and that's definitely the direction they're going in with their seasonal pass. And they're saying that I think it's season 2, so in about 3 months, we should expect the cooperative campaign to drop as part of that. And then season 3, we should expect the Forge level editor to drop as part of that. However, there will still be multiplayer split screen co-op, couch co-op on day 1 launch, but only on consoles. If you're a PC player, you won't have it on there. There are technical issues and they haven't got that working yet. And they don't know when they are going to have that working. So it's kind of a mixed bag, in my opinion. And I tell you how I feel about this. In my honest opinion, it's another example of a game that's not finished. They want to get it out. It's the 20th anniversary of Halo this year. They want to have a Halo released, but the reality is the game is not finished. So they've taken stuff out of it to enable them to still release it this year, rather than wait and finish the game properly and release it next year when everything else is in it. And that is what it seems like to me. Now, don't get me wrong. That's better than a lot of developers that have released games that haven't been finished, but obviously it's not been released yet, so we don't know what condition it's going to be in. But at the moment, it's kind of like they're almost like, what can we pull out of it that we haven't got working so we can still release? All their eggs seem to be in one basket. But we're going to talk about this a bit more later on, I believe. So, but that's the news. Disappointing for me. I'm not really a massive Forge fan. I'm very excited by the multiplayer. But so I'm not really that disappointed, but I am majorly disappointed about the campaign because playing co-op is one of those big seminal things for me. I love playing campaign.
Can I just double check something? I read a couple other articles just because I was a bit curious about this, and one of the main articles I came across, they said that the couch co-op wasn't ready in the very first part of the article, and then they just referred to it as campaign co-op for the rest of it. So I don't suppose if you know a definitive answer as to whether it's the couch co-op for the campaign is not available. And we are
from Joseph Statton's own mouth, for multiplayer, couch co-op for the console will release on launch. But that's
what I read. But it's very
not available for PC. They can't get it working on that yet.
Yeah, I read that about couch co-op, but it's a. Yeah. I'm not saying. Sorry. I read that about couch co-op, but it's a very muddled messaging. I think that's something that's definitely not been done very, very well. They should have been like, we should have. I hate to say we should have a spreadsheet. We should have had one of those charts where it says available at launch, and like, because unfortunately, it's just caused a lot of confusion about what we won't be able to do. And again, as Alan said, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but. I agree with Alan. It's a big disappointment in a lot of ways here, but I don't want to get too down on it. I don't want to get too stuck into it because, as I say, we're going to come to a bit of a chat about this sort of stuff later. But I think there's a definite. I think my thought is this: my hype had gone right up after seeing all the multiplayer beta stuff, and I was really, 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 really excited again for Halo. And this has just kind of shaved it right back down again, which is a real shame. I'm not saying I'm not psyched for Halo Infinite. But I certainly, I've had the shine they put up there a couple of weeks ago just knocked straight back off now, which is a shame. So it's this. Halo's been in this weird place for a few years now, probably since Halo 4 was a little bit of a disappointment. Which I loved Halo 4, the campaign anyway. Other than the boss fight at the end, the boss fight at the end is kind of rubbish because there's some problems with the quick time event and the fact that. It prompts you on the wrong button on the QuickTime event as well, which was kind of a bit of a major issue. But I really enjoyed the Halo 4 campaign. I think the story in it is great, but I think it didn't live up to a lot of people's expectations. And then Halo 5, I hate to say, definitely dropped the ball for like a ton of reasons. And I think Halo needs to score a big win, and this isn't the way to score a big win by having something as quintessential to Halo as the co-op experience removed from it at launch. Because let's face it, we're still in a pandemic situation. We don't really know what the situation is going to be come Christmas, and online multiplayer is now the way of the world. We love it, and as much as couch co-op is great for people who live with them. For me, couch co-op being available at launch is next to flipping useless because I live on my own. The only way I can play co-op on Halo with a buddy is online, or travel to his house.
It definitely seems like they're more focused on getting that live service multiplayer out. That seems to be their priority, in my opinion. They want to get the campaign out because that's important, but their focus definitely seems to be on this live service, and they seem to be putting a lot of like kudos into that.
I think it's a very big project this time around for them as well. I think we're maybe well underestimating how big Halo Infinite is, because from all accounts, the map for the campaign is enormous. So the campaign is huge in of itself, and then the whole, as Alan says, the live service ongoing. Model with the multiplayer is massive as well. There's almost 2 games launching with this, so I think it's a whole project.
The whole multiplayer aspect is their key win. I mean, like we all said, Halo 5 was a disappointment. It was only a disappointment because the campaign was a disappointment. The multiplayer on it was absolutely amazing. It played fantastically well. They did a fantastic update to it. The Warzone mode was brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed that. but so the campaign was the ball drop, and that has been a bit of a thing from Halo 4. 343.
Don't you find it weird though that Halo made its name on multiplayer in terms of Halo 2, right? Like, I mean, I don't get me wrong, the campaign on Halo 1 is like masterpiece. I actually thought the campaign on 2 was a little disappointing compared to 1. 3's campaign was superb, but the trilogy as a whole rounds out really nicely. But like now, if the Halo campaign is a failure, regardless of how good the multiplayer is, the thing that makes them their bread and butter and made the game the long-term success that it was, is now the thing that doesn't really matter to things. Isn't it weird how that happens with Halo 5?
If the campaign's not a success, no matter how good the multiplayer is, it won't work. And yet the multiplayer is what they're banking on their money. They had all those was it the boxes or the ribbons or whatever you could buy in 5, and they obviously made some solid bank off of those, and they need the same thing to happen with Halo Infinite, as they want to get that Fortnite model in place. I've no doubt at some point we'll see a season pass pop up in there as well.
Oh, there's
they've already announced it, haven't they? I thought they'd already announced season passes.
Yeah, this is why they're talking about. That's why they're saying that the Forge and that is going to be released in season 2 and season 3. They're already confirmed the seasons are going to be there. So season
because they need to get the stuff in there that makes them money, and then they'll keep spending money to fix the other stuff that they can finish in time. That's what it's going to turn out to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which, I'm excited about the multiplayer, but I kind of have misgivings because, I'm not a massive fan of the live service. And the fact is that, Halo is multiplayer. It does look fantastic, but, if I don't want to be playing Halo Fortnite. And if it's going to be like you've got to pay for a season pass every 3 months to be part of that, then I don't know how I feel about it.
With Fortnite, it's really just the skins and the stuff which is cosmetic. It's all cosmetics. There's no game-changing stuff that's locked behind the season pass, it's just what Fortnite does so well is it gets people invested and they just want to spend money. I mean, if they start putting game-changing mechanics into the season pass, as far as I'm concerned, Halo's
it's just cosmetic.
Yeah, they won't
make that mistake. They've seen what works. Everyone looks to Destiny as the game model, and they've seen what works with Destiny and what doesn't. When they put something game-changing in there,
but the word on the street is that they are very, very close to actually giving us a release date with more.
It's December. It's December, 100%.
They keep referring to holiday. It's got to be December. It's going to be the second.
I love the way you say that word on the street. Alan's got his ears to the ground. He's got his street rats out there listening.
If the street is the internet, then yes, it's definitely the street. But
it's not people sat by the hot dog cart outside 343 listening to them talk while they're having their lunch.
I tweeted at my sources at 343 Industries, and they came back to me and said, "Who the hell are you? Why you keep texting me? I'm calling the police and getting a restraining order." But we'll wait and see. But hopefully, we'll have something in the next sort of month or so as a confirmed day, and we'll start seeing some screenshots and some actual solid information about what's going to be in that open world campaign. Because we've got precious little at the moment. Nice information on the multiplayer. A lot of positive stuff. Good with Tommy being on a couple of weeks ago and giving us the heads up on that. But I'm really excited to see what the campaign is. Just disappointed I won't be able to enjoy it with my son or with you guys for at least 3 months after that. But it kind of made me think about and it genuinely, just before we move on, the thing it made me think was, do I want to indulge in that campaign straight away, or do I want to wait until I can do it with my buddies? No way, I'm not waiting.
It gave me pause, and I was like, I'll never be able to avoid all the spoilers. I might as well just play it.
You say that to Craig. He's the one that should be here talking about this and giving his feelings, frankly. But if you said to Craig, "Well, mate, you have to wait 3 more months," I think he'd probably have a hernia.
Mate, we'd see that vein popping out on his head.
Just his back would just convulse and he'd fall over backwards. And,
you start doing this.
Yeah, exactly. He couldn't do it. Do it.
Speaking of companies that have horrendous communication, Chris, you've got the next story, haven't you? Perhaps you'd like to fill us in on that.
That was a great attempt at one of Craig's famous segues. I will give you that. It was a solid attempt, mine. It was a good 6 out of 10.
He committed. It just didn't land.
We only work on a 5 out of 7 scale. Some of you will understand that, some won't. One day we'll explain it.
So the company in question is the wonderful Activision Blizzard.
Your favourite.
And we had the announcement of the new Call of Duty, which is Call of Duty Vanguard, which is bringing the series back to World War II. The The announced trailer looks everything you expect from a Call of Duty game. If I'm entirely honest, it looks absolutely staggering in terms of graphical content. It's all like those Call of Duty moments and things like that, and it's exactly what you expect Call of Duty. If you said Call of Duty in World War II, covert operation stuff, you'd be like, this is everything I expect it to be, and it's exactly that. There's some big old explosions and fantastic looking cutscenes. I was absolutely like wowed by how it looked. However, it's Call of Duty, and
I gotta be honest.
Go on.
I'm bored.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was about to say. It's
bored
just
of another World War II shooter. We've had 3, 4 of them already. Battlefield did 2. Call of Duty did one as World at War
now,
or something. I think it
4
was.
Now they've had, isn't it? 3 or 4 they've done.
If you take back to like Call of Duty 2 and 3 as well. There was Call of Duty. Pacific Rim was one of them, I think, or something. Pacific Rift or. I can't remember that far back now.
There's been at least
you're just putting words together now, Phil. And...
Yeah, sorry. That sounds like a thing. There was at least 4 Call of Duties to date which have been World War II. This will be the 5th as far that I know of for definite. But regardless, it's just another Call of Duty game. It's everything you expect from a Call of Duty game. It looks like a Call of Duty game. There is precious little to excite me in this trailer, other than the fact that it is obviously very, very good. It's very slick. It's very produced. It's exactly what you expect. But I can't say that at any point I went, oh, wow, this looks really, really, really interesting. It just looked, I was like, oh, wow, this looks really, really, really Call of Duty, and it's a bit sad when you get to that point where you can just say it just looks like Call of Duty, and we would all know exactly what we meant if we said that. We would all know what that meant exactly if we said it just looks like a Call of Duty game. You could pretty much write the script, but there are some stunning visuals in it. It does look like there's a lot of care and attention given to it, as there always is. But I'm sorry, for a multitude of reasons, I can't get excited for this. Again, as we've said previous weeks, we're not going to dwell on it, but Activision Blizzard ain't getting any of my money, period. And this didn't actually make me want to spend money on it, to be perfectly honest, because I'm bored of Call of Duty. But there you go.
I know how they can fix it, but I'll let Alan go first.
So, I've made my sentiments clear before. I mean, Call of Duty Modern Warfare was the first Call of Duty I played in quite a while, quite a few years, mostly because, the multiplayer just didn't appeal to me anymore. It was literally 14 to 60-year-olds running around, basically getting super kills. You didn't even have time to learn how to play. Yeah. And I like more of a measured multiplayer. Yeah, I want something where I at least feel like I stand a chance. And the skill steep learning curve on Call of Duty for many years has been so steep that I just didn't want to play it. It's just, I don't want to win all the time, but I want to feel like I can win. But when you play and you just come up against the matchmaking was awful, you come up against players that just kill you on sight because they know every map, and it's not fun. And Modern Warfare was the first one in a long time that I really enjoyed because it felt slower, it felt measured, and I enjoyed the experience, and I played it for a while. It was nice to go back and re-enjoy it and re-experience that feeling of playing a multiplayer Call of Duty game. I did say at the time, and I've said before, I would love it if they would go back to World War II. Because I have fond memories of Medal of Honor and Call of Duty World at War and those games. And I really like that setting of World War II. I'm nearly old enough to have been there. No, I really wasn't. I'm way too young. But and for me, it isn't. I'm not really interested. But then I'm not really the target audience.
Yeah.
The target audience is going to lap this up. It is a trailer, and the trailer looks great, but there's no real gameplay in there yet. When we start seeing gameplay, I'm sure. But for the fanboys, for the people who buy COD every single year, what doesn't matter, they'll buy it because they love playing COD, they love learning all the new weapons, and they get in there, they learn the maps, and they just play it, and they play it, and they find their favorite game mode. Those people will be so excited now, and it looks like it's a nice change for them. We've had a lot of different eras. We're going back to World War II. They're mixing up a bit. Was the last one 1980s, Reagan era, Cold War?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
exactly. And before that it was Modern Warfare. So it's so you've got, that's a good mix for the last 3 years of Call of Duty games, and I think that's really good for the target audience. I think they're going to be super excited to see that. For me personally, I'll wait and see. I'm probably not going to play it, and I'm not going to be excited about it. But I have been saying for a long time, as I said, for a return to World War II. So I'm interested. I'll keep an eye on it, see what it's like.
Did you play the last one? What was it? Call of Duty. I can't remember what it's called now. There was a World War II one not so long back with the Normandy beach and all that in it.
That was, Normandy, I think it was called World at War, wasn't it?
Wasn't it? I thought World at War was the one with the. I could have sworn World at War was on with the stupid grenades that was out on the 360. That was when it came off.
I don't know. I remember it had that little hub bit.
Whatever it was called, I didn't play it. Yeah. No.
It's good. If you like the World War II setting, Al, you should check it out. It's genuinely, it's the last COD I really played, and I would recommend it. I'm just like, see if I remember the name of it now. It's unfortunately I've forgotten it because I don't really care enough. But it's.
But then upon saying that, I'm super excited for Battlefield 2042, which couldn't be further away from World War II than if you really tried, because it looks so freaking awesome. So you know.
That do you know what my thoughts were? Like I said, I'm a bit bored because I think we've done way too many of these World War II era stuff, World War One era, and it's not my jam. I don't really like that. I think they need to go further forward. I think that would excite
me. Didn't they do that once?
Guys.
It didn't work too well. I don't.
No, they did it with Black Ops, and it didn't work.
No, they did it with Kit Harington, didn't they? Space.
Space Force or something, or fighting in space stations.
Picture this, right? Now, the biggest problem we get with Call of Duty is when they go too far forward, they start adding in all the jetpacks and the jumpsuits, and then we're too old and slow and we can't play it. Yeah. Picture though, they went to the future, but post-apocalyptic, like something like Terminator Salvation style. So the technology is kind of destroyed. So you don't have people jumping around jetpacks and stuff, but you have cool laser guns instead. Imagine that, but in Call of Duty. That'd be a really cool setting.
With F-15's Space Top Gun.
Well, no, I've already had Space Top Gun, haven't I? They already did that. It was Infinite War. Space Top Gun. Yeah, they already did Space Top Gun.
I don't know if you saw as well, by the way, mate, but apparently the Top Gun DLC for Flight Simulator, you can't even fire the guns.
Yeah, I know, it broke my heart a little bit, but it's still Top Gun. I mean, it's not Space Top Gun, but it's still.
And if any of my experience in flight simulator is, I do seem to spend an awful lot of time flying my planes upside down, so I could sort of do the music and make out there's a plane below me as I crash and die into the ground for the 160.
You are, Alan. You're basically Maverick already without even realizing, except he's about to crash usually.
Yeah,
exactly. Down.
Exactly.
We can't do any of that.
But yeah, so you know. It's mixed bag for Call of Duty, but
cool. Well, we shall move on to the next topic then, and I've got this one, and this is something I'm quite very interested in. Is that right?
Quite very? Is that a sentence, Phil?
Well, why not? Hey, why not?
Why not?
We'll give you it. Let's just move.
Let me drop in the video. So it is Wukong, Black Myth. Or Black Myth, Wukong, however you want to say it. And you've both watched the latest video. This is a quick short trailer of it, so because the video was like 30 minutes long. And I mean, that game looked amazing. So a little bit of background on it. So Wukong, or Black Myth, is developed. It's an indie studio based in China, so out of Hangzhou and Shenzhen. Apparently they have 2 offices. It's made up of developers from Tencent's Quantum Studio. And if you know who Tencent are, they basically own everything. They're like a mega corp. You know, when the world takes over and corporations rule, Tencent will be one of them that basically rules the
Illuminati.
Yeah, basically, it'll be up there with them. They're the Chinese version of, well, the Illuminati are everywhere, but yeah, they probably are. I mean, what's interesting about this is the company, so Game Science, previously just used to make mobile games. So they did, I think it's called Art of War and 100 Heroes. So this is really their first foray into like a AAA style esque 3D beat 'em up game, and god damn, it looks like they're doing a good job with it. One of the interesting things I did find out, so these initial kind of demos and bits we're seeing were actually their kind of bids to try and get more developers on board. So they wanted to grow the studio because they had the funding for it, and that's what a lot of these videos are. Some of them are almost like demos to get more people on board with it. Mm-hmm. But it's clearly doing a good job. They keep releasing trailers. I mean, we don't have a date for it yet, so you know, it could be 10 years away. But supposedly it's going to follow the story of Sun Wukong, also known as the Monkey King, and it's the traditional going to the West story, and he's going to have all these amazing abilities, like we've seen some of them in the various videos. Like he's going to have the shape shifting, he's going to have like something called a cloud somersault, whatever that is. He's going to have an incredible leap that can leap 330,000 miles. I don't know how they're going to implement that in the game. I'm sure it'll be an amazing cutscene, but Sounds pretty cool. And apparently he has an amazing breath control ability that makes him immortal. So, lots to play with on the story there. As far as the game goes, it's going to be third person. You can kind of see from the gameplay, it's very kind of Dark Soulsy. There's going to be a mix of exploration as well, apparently. So, yeah, I'm very interested. I think it looks great. The latest demo with the snow deformation looked amazing. I mean, it had 4K, 60 frames, ray tracing. It had all the right bells and whistles. And it was Unreal Engine 5 as well, yeah. I was
going to say, I'll jump in here because my take on this is pretty short and sweet. This is not a game that interests me at all. It's not my style of game. However, having said all that, that looks absolutely amazing. Like it feels like a tech demo. I will be honest. It does feel like a tech demo more than it feels like a gameplay trailer. So I think maybe losing our minds about it at this point is a little bit premature. With all that being said, though, it does look like just in terms of art design and environments and all that sort of stuff, it's really a really astounding piece of work so far. So I hope they can deliver like this or close to it. Absolutely brilliant what we've seen so far. It's not my game at all, but I do hope that it's brilliant for people who are looking forward to it, and I hope it delivers on what it promises so far. So yeah, there you go. But it looks great. It looks really good. Really, really good. I can't stress that enough.
Maybe this will be our first, if they get it out in time, maybe it'll be a first proper like Unreal 5 game that looks amazing. Who knows?
Maybe. A lot of maybes. I mean, I'm not that dissimilar to Chris. It's not. I mean, I do occasionally dabble in this type of game. As you said, it is more of, in a sense, it's more of a tech demo than anything else to try and draw in more developers. And I'm thinking, at the moment, what I'm seeing in the videos looks, as Chris has said, it looks stunning. It really does look next gen. Imagine playing that game and it's just like, the volumetric, all the snow deformation, the everything just looks just ridiculously detailed and astonishingly good. However, there doesn't seem to be a lot of depth to the gameplay. But from what I can see, it all seems to be one boss and next boss, next boss, next boss. But then that's the point of the trailers, trying to show you different characters, different moves, I suppose.
You show the most impressive looking stuff, don't you? The stuff that makes people excited. Yeah. And let's face it, we all love a big monster, don't we? We all love a big
dragon. Is just awesome. It just looks
You didn't mention that. Yeah, that is a really good point. That dragon looks
absolutely amazing, and the fighting. But again, I'm kind of like, he seems to only have the one weapon, but then it doesn't really matter if he can use different skills to use it in different ways, and he does seem to. He pulls
so he's going to have
with the dragon where he jumps onto the top of he stands on top of the big club, doesn't he, and that stick and then or staff, sorry, and then he creates a move that actually takes the dragon down, and it's just really cool. And I was like, wow, okay, that looks interesting. Kind of really interested, but we'll wait and see. As I say, it's very early days, as you said. But as far as what's going to be possible graphically with my 30 frames a second eyes, I am blown away by how freaking gorgeous it looks, and cannot wait to be playing games that look that good. If Avowed looks that good, I am going to be probably wetting myself. I'll probably be wetting myself by the time it comes out anyway. I'll probably be in incontinence pants, probably. But that
I wonder whether you were going for an age thing in terms of development time.
It'll probably precipitate. That game will probably precipitate. But if we're starting to see games with that fidelity of graphics and that detail, that is that's just awesome.
Don't forget that is by an indie studio as well. Like they've like 10, 12 people or something like that. I think I read it's not a big studio and they're delivering that. And if they can deliver that on Unreal 5 with a small team, what could you do with a big team?
We talk about the small teams. Look at the Ascent. I saw a mod that put the Ascent into first person, and it's stunning in first person. Absolutely stunning in first person. I was like, this is 12, 13 people made this game, and that in first person, that game looks every bit as good as Cyberpunk 2077 does. In fact, it looks more detailed and rich than Cyberpunk 2077 does in a lot of ways. And I'm like, it's got to be about this like artistic vision as much as anything. And I'm not saying you're not right when you say it's only 12 people. If we get the right studios with this technology Gordon Bennett, we're going to have
I
some.
remember watching a video where
Beatles.
one of the guys was talking about how their kind of development process went. And because they are a small studio and you don't have all this politics and big discussions about which direction you're going to take this particular scene, you know, you're going to do this and it takes time and then it has to be approved and then it goes down and blah, 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 blah. They were just like, some guy, part of the 12-man team would go, hey, wouldn't it be really cool if I did this and I did that and the lead guy would go, all right, then, off you go and do it. And he'd be like, oh, all right then. And he'd go off and do it. And that's the difference. It's like this, again, it's cutting away the bureaucracy and just allowing creativity free reign. And because you have that, you have these people who are very talented, you know, in a small team that are all working towards the same goal. And there's this close-knit kind of feeling where they all know what that goal is. And therefore you end up with a much higher quality piece of content that comes out at the end.
Yeah. Let's not forget, Ninja Studio were technically a very small developer as well, and they produced Hellblade, and that game was amazing. And they keep updating
Ninja Theory are a small studio.
Yeah. Still are a small
now. Yeah, they're tiny
small studio with a big budget now. That's the difference. Whereas they were a small studio with a small studio budget when they made Hellblade.
I think when you say about Hellblade, I think the big thing there, what they set out to do was just like prove that it didn't need to be quite as flashy as it was. They used the experience to justify it, essentially. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I'm trying to think of the best way to explain it. They knew that just by making the visuals really immersive and the sound really immersive, it would just work itself. Do you know what I mean? They had it's exactly what Alan said. It's artistic vision. They knew what their vision was, and they didn't need this thing to do it. And it's focus, isn't it? It's that laser focus. And I think we've seen it like just recently with film as well. Like we've talked about this, like, you know, the best films have been the ones where artists have been left to their visions, you know, across the board, you know, and it's always worked that way. And I think, as Alan said, these smaller studios really do get that artistic vision point across. And I think that The Ascent is one of the first I've seen really hammer that point home. And this Black Myth Wukong, if it is like 12, 13 guys, I mean,
could be the same thing.
It's genuinely staggering to think that, you know, that was, you know, produced by these guys, and it's comparable to the best we've seen from any of the big studios, you know, if not better than some of them, you know. So yeah. I'd certainly say it blows something like Cyberpunk clear out of the water, like, you know, in terms of like wow factor, and, you know, CDPR would think. Although I will say that I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Witcher enhancements come out looking like, because that was always a very pretty game when they got that working, like the griffins and stuff. I think they're going to look really cool in next gen if they really go to town on it. So it'll be interesting to see how studios like that take these upgrades. Yeah, anyway, I'm waffling. So
I've got to say, you mentioned Witcher, but very on the side because we haven't got this on the running order. But wasn't Witcher 4 kind of semi-announced this week?
Was it? I missed that.
Was it this week? I think it was.
Was it a couple of weeks ago?
They said it was happening. They were doing something.
In development. Sorry, yes.
They kind of confirmed. They said they weren't going to make another one, and they are now making Witcher 4. I think that's just worth pointing out because that makes me a very happy chappy.
Yeah. I think I'm excited to see what happens.
I mean, I think that surprises no one really, does it? It's like, hi, we like money.
Yeah.
And their initial.
It's funny you should mention that, Chris, because, Phil, do you want to grab that as the segue, my friend, into the next?
That was a perfect point. That's exactly what I was thinking. So we have a lovely segue, and we've got you to talk about it again, Alan, just like last week, but you prepared this week. But because it's like last week, I've picked an entirely different video just to make things interesting. So tell us what Bethesda are up to.
It's the moment we have all been waiting for. It is the next definitive edition of Skyrim.
Oh, final swan song.
It's going to, well, I wouldn't say final.
Hold on.
I wouldn't get carried away.
Statement.
Yeah,
this is never the last version.
This is
maybe.
So Skyrim is 10 years old this November. 10 years old. And to celebrate this, Bethesda is launching yet another version of the Skyrim RPG, titled the Anniversary Edition, on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, which will be available from the 11th of November. Just to read some specs on this, so specifically it'll feature over 500 Creation Club elements. If you don't know what the Creation Club is, this is a curated pool of officially sanctioned mods by Bethesda, which normally you would have to purchase using in-store credits. And these include all manner of content, quests, dungeons, bosses, weapons, spells, changes the game, a massive amount of extra content for the game. And apparently fishing, which it makes its way into every single goddamn game these days. But hey, I quite like fishing in New World, so I'm not really dissing it, to be fair. But still, fishing has become the new game trend. It used to be flushing toilets. Or was it? Was it ever flushing toilets? I'm not sure it was. But anyway, moving on. So if you already own the Skyrim Special Edition, you'll be able to upgrade to the Anniversary Edition. And I believe that's free. And there will be a free next-gen update on the way for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S, which is also a free update as well. My take, personally, so before you guys jump in, I don't have a problem with this. I know what you're both going to say. You know, it is flogging a dead horse. It's like cash cow, bring it out, you know, but at the end of the day...
They're not flogging a dead horse, mate. This will still make the money. That horse isn't dead. That horse is still running at full tilt.
That's exactly the point I'm making, yeah. It is still a monumentally good name. The fact that Bethesda are still giving it lip service and are still upgrading it to the new generations shows how good a game actually is. I could put it on. In fact, I might even put it on with the next gen upgrade to play it again, because it is still an amazing game with the breadth of content and story and with this added content, even more things to enjoy. And it's not only the game, it kind of brings into my mind a much bigger conversation about the game life of games. We have slowly, as we've moved through the developments and the upgrades in graphics and things, we've talked before about the development of games taking longer because the games are much more complicated and are much more in-depth, and they take bigger teams to produce these AAA titles. But that also means the actual shelf life of those games is also much longer, because the advances in graphics and things aren't quite as pronounced as they used to be in the early generations, in the late 90s and the early 2000s. If you got a game that was like 2 or 3 years old, you could tell that you had a game that was 2 or 3 years old because of the graphics. Now these days, with next gen upgrades and mods and things on PC, you can do that. It doesn't or isn't always immediately noticeable that a game has a bit of age to it. GTA Online and GTA 5 has been around for almost a decade. It's not the only game out there on the market. And quite frankly, I actually applaud Bethesda for keep on giving it lip service and keep on giving it that extra sheen of paint and saying, you know what, people are still playing it. Because I'm not even sure there are still going to be people who will buy it, because 10 years ago there's a whole new generation of people who haven't played it and they might want to buy it now. So why not give them the opportunity? You know, at the end of the day.
Yeah. So I see. Yeah, my take was much more simple than that, and I'm not going to say they're flogging a dead horse or anything. It's this what we're emerging into is the ongoing, never-ending war that is between GTA 5 and Skyrim to be the longest running game ever to exist without having a sequel, and be available on more platforms than any other. So basically,
Skyrim wins. Come on, there's no GTA.
Rockstar announced they were extending GTA 5 onto the new consoles, and Skyrim are like, we'll see about that, Sonny Malado. Yeah. And like, no, but did you know it's dropping on the exact same day that GTA 5's next gen patch is scheduled to launch as well. Yeah. So like, it's like, tell me this isn't like a microcosm of console wars right here. It's Skyrim versus GTA just going head to head. You know, it's like it's like those two games. But I mean, I'm with you 100%. I think there's a load of people who this is a true classic of gaming. Whilst I never got on with it, I'm not a big fan of Bethesda's RPGs. We know this. I can totally look at it objectively and say there is no way that this many people are wrong about Skyrim. You know, it's an objective classic. You know, I've got a friend who, as I said, the guy I'm painting the Dragonborn for, he's been a bit neglected the past couple of weeks. I must finish him up. He said to me, you know, I'm buying an Xbox Series X for Bethesda RPGs because I love them so much. You know, Skyrim was so important to him. So they're 100% not flogging a dead horse here. This is 100% still marketable material. But there was a stat I saw, which is quite interesting, that the two of the biggest franchises in gaming, which is GTA and Skyrim or Elder Scrolls, between the two of them, there hasn't been a new game like between the two of them, you know, in 15 years for one series and 13 years for the other. I mean, we haven't had a new game from those.
It's kind of the Valve effect.
Well, it's been one release, I should say. One release,
kind of the Valve effect, because why should they? You know, at the end of the day, the expectation for the next title in these series is so high.
Yeah,
the ability to fail is so easy. You know, if you don't get it, the fans out there are so vocal about what should or shouldn't be. You know, remember how vocal the GTA fans were when GTA 5 came out with the triple, like, intertwining storyline. They were like, "This is what is this rubbish? This is terrible." Now, of course, it's lauded as revolutionary and everything else, and because it worked. But and Rockstar took a risk. But the reality is that both companies have got a lot riding on the next game in the series. And do you really want to put yourself through that when your current game is still making money?
100%. 100%. They've both got a license to print money, so why wouldn't you use it? You know, why wouldn't you use it? It's just like, it's crazy. But I think it looks great. I'm really happy for Skyrim fans. It doesn't interest me at all again, but very happy for Skyrim fans. This is a super cool like update. Good to see next generation support for their classic as well.
Yeah, I might have to pick it up for the Series X. I might have to delve.
Well, I would imagine it'll be in Game Pass, mate. I don't know for sure, but I'd imagine it will.
Yeah, so.
And I hope it is, because I wouldn't pay for it. But then I played Skyrim on the 360 and I played it on the PC for the modding, and you know, I want a new Elder Scrolls. Like, I've played the game enough times, and my worry is, like, I'm guessing this was probably a down and dirty remaster. Like, you know, they already had a lot of the textures in place for the PC, so probably implementing some of the other stuff was fairly low key and quite easy. And if that's the case, that's fine. You know, do it, get some more money in the bank. If that's going to make the next Elder Scrolls game that much better, fine. But if this took time away from Elder Scrolls 6...
I don't see that. I really
they're working on Starfield at the minute.
Yeah.
It's all about Starfield.
Well, as I say, or if it's taking time away from Starfield, you know, I really want to see Starfield.
I doubt it. I really, really doubt that it's had any significant impact on Starfield or Elder Scrolls 6.
I hate to say, but Bethesda and Bethesda is particularly now under the guidance and a mentorship of Microsoft. I don't see Microsoft like letting them just go, Starfield, this big exclusive we're relying on. You can.
We don't even know who's done the next gen update. It might not even be Bethesda itself. It might be a subsidiary or another developer.
Could be.
We don't know who did it. You know,
and like you say, Phil, they probably just nicked a load of the PC stuff and just slapped it in there and been like,
I'm guessing that's probably what it is. They just took whatever the PC Ultimate settings were, bunged a load of those in there, tweaked a couple of bits, and resold it
up to maximum res.
I mean, you know, at least it's free if you already own the game, so I'm fine with that. Maybe there's a new generation.
It's if you own a particular version of the game, isn't it? It's not. It's
got to be the special edition, not the. So you've got to that last one that they released. But just as a closing thing, sweet, got the Elder Scrolls story down this week. Sweet, got it.
Nice. Well, we did have a discussion point set up for this week, so shall we move on to that?
Let's do that.
Awesome. Okay, so earlier we talked about Halo Infinite missing what we considered key features when it launches. So the discussion point is, you know, should other developers be kind of following this same example? Should they focus on, you know, releasing a steady and stable game at launch, and maybe they pull out some of these key features and these key USPs from the game? Or, you know, should they kind of continue following the existing model? So it's either, you know, they begin chopping the game up and they release the bits that work and then release them later through season passes, or do they bunk all the features in there, they release it broken to high heaven, and then they spend the next 6 to 12 months patching the game a la Cyberpunk, trying to fix things and add things back in?
I've got a third option. I got a third option. I don't want either of those options, because both of those options are bull crap. Okay, they're both corporate bull crap. The third option is give reasonable development time for your games, give reasonable time for your developers to actually make the game without crunch, and then give reasonable release dates for your games in the first frickin' place. Yeah, the first one is unacceptable. Releasing a game unfinished is absolutely criminal, and it should be criminal. The second one, releasing a game with content taken out because you need to release it now, and it's not the finished product, is still criminal. The only option is to release your game when it is finished. And both of those options, the game is not finished. And quite frankly, as I said earlier on, the reason why this is happening to Halo is because they want to release it this year. They want to have it in the 20th anniversary, and they are releasing a product that is not finished. They have removed stuff from the product so that they can release it this year. That is unacceptable. I don't care whether the campaign works and is great. That's still not what the game was promised. I'm sorry, but Halo has had campaign co-op since what, number 3 as standard. Was it had
one,
it? Was it?
No, it's had it. It was couch co-op in 1. Yeah, but it was only 2-player
number 1. Yeah,
2-player in 1 and 2, and then it was 4-player in 3 onwards.
There you go. So it's as standard. So it was expected as standard, and now they're taking it out, not because they can't do it, because they need to release it this year. Not whether that's shareholder based or whether that's based because it's the 20th anniversary of Halo and Microsoft want it to happen this year. I don't know. I'm not privy to that information. But either way, it's not a finished product. So wait until it's finished and then release it. That's my piece.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. End of the discussion point.
Well, okay, so
my work here is done.
I agree a lot of with what Alan just said. I think he's 100% right. We shouldn't. I presented these two as the options where I would like the option Alan suggested. When I wrote the discussion point, I looked at the real world and said the real world is we get these games that are either broken to high heaven and need to be patched to the middle of next year to fix them, or we get games where they start taking things out and putting them back in when they're finished. Which has its own set of concerns as far as I'm concerned, because like, what's to say we won't get to the point where in 3 months after Halo launches they drop in the multiplayer and everything suddenly breaks? Because that's happened before when things have been patched in, right? We've seen it before. So it's not without its things. I of these two options, I have to say I prefer the Halo option, providing Halo works. Like if Halo works properly at launch and the campaign runs smoothly and the multiplayer is good and there aren't any major glaring issues, I'd rather we had that than the multiplayer comes in. We have a campaign co-op where nothing could be worse than they release Halo with a co-op campaign enabled, where we constantly have disconnects and dropouts, and progression doesn't work properly, or there's major lag across it and things like that, because that's going to really ruin that experience for anyone playing that co-op experience. Which obviously we want it to be a great experience. I remember, one of my favorite gaming experiences of my life was the Halo Reach launch night. Getting my friends together, we went to Game. We picked up a copy at Game. Both me and my mate Jim got the Halo Reach, the big box set with the Reach figurines, and it was a great night for so many reasons. We got back to mine. We had 2 consoles set up. We actually couldn't get them networked. It wouldn't talk on network, so we ended up doing it over Xbox Live that night. We planned to do it on a local LAN, but for some reason we couldn't get them talking, which was occasionally a thing that would happen with 360s. They were a pain in the ass sometimes to network. And we went on Xbox Live and we were playing it, and I will never forget that night because for so many reasons. I'll never forget because Jim is a huge Halo nerd, like a massive Halo nerd. And one of my favorite memories of the night was we got back and he unboxed his elite edition of legendary edition. That's what they call it. Was it legendary edition? And he was going through the Halsey's diary, because there's a Halsey's diary in that book. It's a book of it's supposed to be how she created the Spartans, etc. And he was just like totally like sucked in like a kid at Christmas, like just flicking through this book. And I was like, Jim, we kind of want to play the game. It's like 1 a.m. Can we please play the game? And he's like, yeah, all right. And it was like, and then for another 10 minutes, he's still flicking through the book, And then we got on and we played the game. We played all night. All of us did, straight through. And there's a moment in Halo Reach where it's always stuck with me that there's a moment where Kat dies in Halo Reach. And if you remember the Reach campaign, it's sort of
recently.
About 2/3 of the way through, Kat gets sniped by a jackal, and it's a bit out of nowhere. The first time you play it, and I just remember there was this deathly silence across all the comms when it happened, and then it happens, and I just remember I think it was me, but it might have been Kev, when that's no way for a Spartan to die, and there was just this real somber tone of that was just not that's just not.
That was a low blow, guys.
It was a low blow. And so the Halo co-op campaign, coming back to the point, is so integral to me as part of Halo. But if that experience was fundamentally broken, that night would have been fundamentally broken and would have been completely ruined, So I can see why you would take it out if it's not going to be a good experience. Am I happy about it? Hell no. Do I think they're being honest and upfront and saying we're taking this out? I applaud them for that. But I do agree with Alan in that I'd much rather it wasn't taken out and the game was released fully functioning and working. That would be the ideal world. But if we're going to go into this world, What I don't want to see is the ongoing model with, and let's just use the one we know, the biggest one of the recent years is the Cyberpunk model, because Cyberpunk has now reached this laughable state where we're now 9 months post-launch and they've just released another patch which had over 500 bug fixes in it. It's like, how can we be that far out from launch and you're still patching that many bugs? You know, and it's got to that laughable state now where you're like, you know, I would have waited another year to get a better version of Cyberpunk and had more fun with it. You know, no one would have been happy had that happened at the launch. You know, but now we're also looking at the point where Cyberpunk seems to have features which were promised now magically disappearing into the ether, like the multiplayer thing that was supposedly promised. You know, that seems to be no longer being talked about and like it's going to disappear.
They can't make that, can they? Because they're trying to fix the game.
Exactly. So I'd much rather we had the honesty from 343 and from anyone going forward and say, we're going to give you the campaign that works, but you can't have co-op for 3 months while we get it finished.
What really riles me up about it is the reasons. As I said, I would rather have a full game release with all of the core components that you promised in the, you know, as the game. Yes, I totally agree with you. It's the lesser of two evils. I'd rather have a game with something taken out of it. But we've seen this before where they take stuff out of it, and as you say, then that gets put in later, and it's a whole mess of it's an absolute disaster at that time. And so it doesn't really improve your experience; it just delays that.
My hope is though, but by delaying it, they're going to not have that problem. But I'm living that element in the it works when it releases.
What concerns me is this corporate like thing. It's about we need to get it out, whether that's because of financial reasons or whether because in this instance it definitely feels like they need to get it out for the 20th anniversary of Halo. Then I'm kind of like, as a gamer, I would rather wait another 6 months or another year until it's actually finished. And it's hard to say because some games you do get so invested in and so excited for. But I really think that as a community, we need to start being realistic about development times for games and how long they take. And when a development studio says, oh, it's going to be released here, they need to be realistic about it. But again, we're talking about huge amounts of money here as well.
I will say this though, Alan, I'm not going to use an excuse for them, but I do get you saying they delayed it for a year. And I think when they delayed it last year, I think they thought giving it another year in the oven was going to be enough time. But we've had an unprecedented 12 months, right? Let's be honest. Like the last 12 months have been somewhat unprecedented. And I think that's without question has hurt Halo's development, along with a ton of other games. You know, some games have come through this better than others. But I think there's been a huge, like, you only have to look at how many games have been delayed. I forget what it was. It got delayed a few months ago, and I made the joke in the chat of like breaking news: 2021 is delayed to 2022. You know, because so many games have been pushed back by 6 months. You know, we're even looking at Horizon Forbidden West being pushed back into next year now.
I totally agree with you. I just hope it's not a trend. I hate to see it become
100%. I agree with you. And I think if we're talking about which of these two models would I like to see studios pursue moving forward, I would much rather have bits of the game work properly when we get them than it kind of is all there, but none of it really works well at all. You know, and the experience is a mess. So anyway,
let me drop my 2 pence in before we
I wanted to go to Phil as well because I know Phil hasn't said anything yet.
I mean, so I was just thinking about it, and obviously, yes, Alan's third option is definitely the best one. Let's just wait and have the game a bit longer. But so what I did was I kind of went back and again did my little research on the Google, and I basically looked at games that kind of launched with problems at launch, and they'd sort of fix them with patches and bits. And I mean, the list is epic.
That's a long list.
Yeah,
more games that released. Can you actually name any games that released without any issues?
I was going to say, Phil, I'm impressed you made that list because I'd have been like, oh, it's every game from the last 10 years. Yeah, cool.
What I did was I picked out some of the key ones that I think really stung when it happened, though, and I just wanted to refresh us to kind of put in perspective what Halo is offering.
This is going to be painful, isn't it? This is genuinely going to be painful.
Well, let's talk about everyone's favourite Fallout 76. So when they launched that game, most people at best could play it for a few hours a day. And that was on maybe a couple of days a week.
And even if you could play it for a few hours, you wouldn't want to because you'd want to top yourself when you were doing it because it was so bland and unexciting as an experience. Why would you want to do that to yourself?
Yep. And, you know, it had spectacular bugs with like VSync, and then you didn't have the normal graphics options of field of view, so the PC players were upset. The console players weren't happy because it just kept crashing all the time, and
it didn't work.
Yep, and if you downloaded the beta, that was 45 gig, and then when the game came out, it made you re-download the game again, but then you couldn't delete the beta, so you had 90 gig of your console storage taken up. That you could either delete it all, or you had to have both. It took them forever to patch. So, and yeah, I mean, they've just been adding patch to fix it, and then everyone complained there was no people, so then they patched in the Wastelanders as DLC,
which apparently is very, very good. I've got to say, I've not heard anyone say anything bad about Wastelanders.
To be fair,
I played some of it. It's pretty good. They've done a good job.
I think it was me, Alan, Jules, and Craig all jumped on there when it came out, and we actually really enjoyed it because it was on Game Pass, thankfully. So there's that. But the next game that I think really stung, No Man's Sky, promised the moon on a stick, and we didn't get it.
It didn't just not deliver the moon on a stick; it barely delivered the moon at launch, didn't it? That game.
Yeah, I mean, it was a multiplayer, and you're going to go into other people's worlds. But so, hang on a sec, I'm on the same planet as you, but I can't see you. Oh well, yeah, it's not actually multiplayer; it's just you're in the world that was created by them. And I mean, they have been patching and adding to that game for what?
And again,
apparently that game's phenomenal now.
Yeah, and all credit to them. I hear nothing but good things about it.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Now, if you play it, amazeballs. Fantastic game. I know they had another DLC drop for it very recently, actually. I think that...
5-year anniversary, wasn't it?
5-year anniversary, so yeah.
But I would notice a trend in the two games that you've both mentioned are both MMOs.
Hang on a sec. Let me keep going. Batman Arkham Knight. Laughed in
PC launch was a disaster.
Laughable state. Oh, yeah. It had 30 FPS frame cache issues, which is not a problem for Mr. 30 FPS over there. But yeah,
it wasn't just that. It couldn't hold a steady frame rate. It was like even on the most powerful of machines, it could barely run. It was a mess of a game on PC.
It was horrendously optimized.
That was the game. Wasn't it the game where before wasn't it where they started refunding it, and then they refunded a ton of people for it because it was so broken, and then they re-released it, and it was still massively broken. Isn't that?
Yeah, they did. So they basically, it was so bad that Warner Brothers pulled it. They said, right, we're not sending more copies. It's horribly broken. They then said, you can have a refund on it because it's so horribly broken. And then they re-released it again. It was still broken. But if you didn't refund it the first time, they gave you every other Batman game they'd ever released as compensation because you still kept it. So
it tells you something about how bad it was. Yeah.
So I did buy it fairly near launch, paid about 15 quid. I mean, it got hammered so bad on the opening days. I waited about a week and I was like, 15 quid, I'll give that a punt. And to be fair, actually, my experience on PC wasn't horrendous. It was playable.
I think it broke down to certain cards and processor combinations. There was some
very specific but wide-ranging hardware issues.
You wouldn't, one of those things you'd think they would, check.
Pick up on.
Somehow, my combination of stuff meant I could get the 30 FPS and it wasn't completely unplayable. So I didn't refund it, and then I got every other Batman game, like Arkham Knight, Arkham City. It all came in there. I was like, I've got 5 Batman games in my Steam library. Bonus. Nice. So yeah, and they've been patching the arse out of that game ever since, and it's playable now, but it took them again a couple of years to get there. Let's see, what else did I have on the list? AC Unity, Assassin's Creed. Good lord, wasn't that an absolute sham? You remember the little girl with the face missing and just the creepy eyeballs? Oh,
how could you forget that?
Yeah,
that still haunts my nightmares.
Yeah, and then you'd be walking in the street and you'd see a man scoot past on his ass because he was supposed to be in a horse and cart, but there was no horse and cart, and then the people, they do like the straight like Leonardo
T-pose.
Yeah, the T-pose, yeah, and they'd scoot past you. I mean, that game is horrendously broken, and the multiplayer didn't work. And again, they patched it. And about 18 months later, it was just about playable.
So what's your point here? You'd rather that they released a game that was worked but had some of the components missing, rather than release a shit show of a game, which everybody seems to do these days.
Yeah, I mean, I could be honest, I had a couple more that I thought would cheer you up. Diablo 3, you can play it offline. You just got error 37. Final Fantasy 14 was an absolute sham when they launched it so bad.
And Cyberpunk,
the game. Cyberpunk, Battlefield 4.
But there was more than Cyberpunk. There was another one just recently as well. I can't think what it was, but there's another one after Cyberpunk where it came out and it was like, oh, another one. Great. Oh, Outriders. Outriders is a prime example.
Yep.
Completely broken at launch. No matchmaking didn't work. The you couldn't even get into games when you invited friends. The servers, it wasn't just the servers. That was just a fundamental issue with the game pairing people up. So many of these things.
People keep pre-ordering and they keep buying these games and they keep. They're enabling the developers to keep releasing games.
But what amazes me, just quickly, you've just listed off a load of games, right, Phil? And a few of them really stood out for one reason to me. And that is like, if you look at No Man's Sky, that was hyped to the back of beyond, and everyone was going nuts about it, especially on PlayStation. They're going, "Oh my god, it's the next best thing!" And they all bought it, and then either all sold it or just don't ever play it anymore. And yet, that's a game which, if it had waited a couple of years and launched in this more complete state, not now, but 2 years ago, when it had more features, that would still be like top rotation game. I think. I genuinely believe that.
No Man's Sky, I think, is the exception to that, because they were a product of overhyping. Like, basically, certain people made assumptions about what the game would deliver. They didn't then deny those assumptions because they could see the pre-order numbers going up and up and up and up and up.
Sure, Murray was the problem.
But that game, when it was launched, it was never meant to have those features. What's happened is they've done is they've then.
Sean Murray told you say that, Phil. But Sean Murray point blank went onto shows and went, "Yeah, it's got this," and you're like, "Yeah, but it never was supposed to." You lied through your teeth.
Yeah, it's the point. They got the hype, and then they had to build those features because they realized that's what people wanted for their game. So I take No Man's Sky as the exception, actually. But the other stuff, like Fallout 76, Batman Arkham, AC Unity, they were all just released in utterly
AC
broken
Unity
states.
was so horrifically broken at launch. I remember that. Broken.
My kind of thought around that is like, let's say AC Unity, right? If they took out the multiplayer aspect, all right, that was their key USP of that game to push it. But you know what? If they released it as an Assassin's Creed game and added that in afterwards, actually, would that have then, they wouldn't potentially have had all these other issues because they weren't trying to implement multiplayer. That game probably would have done all right, and it wouldn't have been 13 quid 2 weeks after the launch. And and that's genuine. I got AC Unity because I bought another game and it came free with that game because it was that bad. And that was 4 weeks after it had launched.
I think, isn't it CD keys are still trying to give them away?
The CD keys were giving them away, yes.
I think they're still giving them away, mate. I think they're still giving them away because they've still got so many of the bloody things. But
I think that is another factor, though. It is, as a whole, the community and the hype factor is a real issue. I mean, you look at some of those games like No Man's Sky and like Cyberpunk, it almost backs some of these developers into a corner to release a certain time, and when they make commitments to dates because the target audience is going mental for their product, and there's a kind of an almost like a destructive relationship here, isn't there, between the consumers and the audience and the actual developers, where they're actually egging them on to make these products and say they're going to release them at a certain time when there's no possible physical way they could actually produce the goods in that level of time, and I think Cyberpunk is definitely a victim of that, where they kept delaying it, and then it got to the point where they felt they had to at least release something, even though it wasn't actually finished, because everybody was so hyped. And No Man's Sky was the same thing. And it's a fundamental issue with the whole games industry. We're not happy to sit back and wait for the product to be ready.
The other thing now that's just reminded me of as well. Sorry, Phil. I wanted the other real toxic side of that is the look at how many people a delay happens to God of War, for example, the next God of War that got pushed back. I think it was God of War anyway, got pushed back at Santa Monica. And then you see death threats going out to developers or people. It's like I mean, you can understand why they almost want to get the monkey off their back at that point and go, look, I don't want it anymore. Just get it out there, because then people can't complain that I've delayed it, and you totally can see that happening,
You get good game developers that produce quality content. I would wait. Of course, I want to see Elder Scrolls 6. Of course, I do. I'm a massive fan. Of course, I want to see Avowed. I've already said this, but I always want to wait until it's done. I don't want to have the experience of a half-assed version where they've had to take stuff out because they want to release it now, or a version that doesn't physically work. I am willing to wait for them to produce content that is of that I want, rather than it's just.
I think the problem is that with this industry, you might even be in the minority here.
It's sad.
I think he is.
I think you are. I think the point I was trying to get to with this stuff is like all of these games released broken. They all got patched out and they all suffered because they were broken. And had they removed certain features, would they have come out in a workable, playable experience? Would they have then not been the pariahs almost that they are? And I wonder whether, like you said, it's almost like a rock and a hard place. Like they've delayed the game once. They wanted to get it out with the launch of the console because this was going to be the first time that Halo had launched on a console since the original Xbox. Then they were like, okay, we can make the 20th anniversary if we do it at this time. And it's that rock and a hard place. And, I think this maybe is a better choice than releasing the game with these features broken. And I respect that decision. yes, as an older gamer like you, I think I would be prepared to wait. If they said to me, "Hey, let's give me another year," I'd be like, you know what, whatever. There is so many games coming out every year, and the amount of hours I work, I don't have the time to play all these games. None of us have the time to play all these games, so there's always going to be something for us to play. But the way these Twitch streamers and influencers, they consume this content so quickly that they always need something new, and they have such a big voice with so many followings that they push. And their influence carries weight that perhaps it shouldn't do into this industry, in my opinion. And I think that's why these scenarios have come up. These games have released. They've got to make these titles. Yes, some of it's probably shareholders as well. They need to please them, and they need to make money, and they need to pay bills and things like that. But from my perspective, I'd rather they released Halo in a state that I can play it and I can enjoy it. All right, it's not the Halo experience I want, because for me, Halo has always been a couch co-op game. I've never played.
Couch co-op's supposed to still be there, man. To be fair, it's supposed to.
Not for the campaign. Not for the campaign.
Do you know what I find very, very bizarre about this whole thing? Apparently, the couch co-op is there on the consoles this time round, right? And we haven't got online multiplayer this time. Halo 5, they removed couch co-op and only had online multiplayer. So it's a bit of a bizarre one.
For me, Halo's always been a multiplayer experience. I've never played it on my own because it's never interested me to that. The experience is better with.
I did Halo 1
or Alan or you sat next to me going, "Oh my God, Phil, I'm down," or "Oh, they've just killed me, the blimey, can you run into the corner so I'm in the spawning zone, please?"
Yeah.
See, I take umbrage at that. Phil is making it sound like he's the one saving us every time, when in fact that is not the reality.
Oh, I'm shameless about saying I'm saving you all the time, but the fact is it's me that dies all the time. I mean, it is. It's like, right, boys, we're going in, all four of us going on a Halo 5, which was, I think, about 6 months ago. We thought we'd give it another punt. And down the mic comes me, "Boys, I'm down." And they're like, "Where are you?" And I am 20 meters ahead of them in the middle of what can only be called a rat's nest of Covenant.
It literally took about 5 seconds, didn't it? You just went running straight down the hill. I'm down.
I went running down the hill. I shoulder charged the first elite, shot him in the face with a shotgun, and got shanked by all of those little
grunts.
Guys with the needlers. Yeah. No, it was the what do they call them? The
jackals.
The jackals. Yeah. It was like 4 jackals. Just look, there he is. Bang. It was like dead. Yeah. I was like, "Can you come pick me up, please, guys?" We'll get to you in a minute.
I think going back to that point, I think you're right. I think my preference would be for a working, stable game, because I also think, like, if we talk about that first impressions matter, we all want to play. I think we're all in agreement here. We'd much rather be able to sit and play Halo with our friends online or what have you, right? And it sucks that we can't do that this time around. But I'd much rather that when I sit down and I put on Halo and I play through Halo, that it works, and that campaign, I get to really soak it in and enjoy it and find out what's happening with Cortana and the Chief, and even the losers on the other fire team who we don't care about. Other than Nathan Fillion, because he's great.
I hope that's just like text backstory I can read. It's not even part of it, really. But...
I just want to say, I really want that whole thing to, because I want it to be an experience I can savor and enjoy. I would hate that experience to be broken up by dropouts and having to wait to come back in, or not, it not working. So I applaud them for making that difficult decision. However, it still sucks they've got to make that decision. And I will also just leave this. We just covered a bit about people sending death threats. Please don't do anything stupid like attack developers because they've had to take features out. Because I can promise you there isn't a developer who's making Halo who is happy they're having to take out multiplayer from the campaign. I promise you there isn't a developer going, "Yay, we've taken campaign multiplayer away from people." No, none of them are like that.
Suck it, guys.
They're all as upset about this as you are. I promise you that. And I think that, I think we need to be very clear on that. Just keep your cool about it. It sucks. We all feel that pain, but you'll get a game. You'll get to play it multiplayer sooner or later. It's going to happen. Don't panic, and let's just enjoy Halo when it arrives. I mean it's not ideal for any game, but let's just keep our cool about it.
I think my personal kind of final thoughts on this is that if Halo Infinite launches and it's missing these features, but the game plays well and it has a great campaign story, nobody will be talking about the missing features. They will be talking about how well it plays, how slick the shooter is, how pretty the graphics are. They'll be like, they'll say, "Oh, it's not got the campaign co-op, but god damn, it plays well." And that's the experience we want. That's my thought. And, if I have to choose, that's the one I will choose.
Yeah. Agreed.
So if we're on agreement on something, that is get rid of this stupid model of pushing things out the door that don't work properly at all, and sacrifice certain features to make your game work better, and we all think that's a better idea.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with that in sentiment, but overarching, I think
we'd much rather have
the
a full,
industry
complete working
needs to address their timelines and what they can actually
100%,
achieve
100%.
and be more realistic. That's what they need to do.
But if they can't do that, what we're saying is don't go with the model you're currently pushing out, which is
don't release us broken crap. We're not putting up with that anymore. No broken crap. Thank you very much.
You know what? Stop over-promising and under-delivering. That's what we're asking.
Hey, look at that.
That's the second time tonight Phil said that to me. But anyway, never mind.
Well, on that note, gentlemen, it's been an hour and 48 minutes. And a privileged hour and 48 minutes.
Another short one, then. We know how to keep them short.
Oh, yeah.
We were all tired.
One day I'm going to figure out video editing and chop up all the relevant segments into bite-sized consumable parts for people.
I'll watch the pod back and then think, hang on, why am I not in it? I thought I could have sworn I was in it. Phil?
Hey, you're coming at about the 40-minute mark, mate, when you haven't had a chance to talk about your week. And
No, separate, not instead of. Not instead of. Wouldn't dare do that to your 1 or 2 fans that you've got, Alan. They need to know.
They do.
How dare you insult Alan only saying he's got 1 or 2 fans? There's at least 3 of them.
You said 1 or 2. I remember
He's allowed to be self-deprecating, Phil.
I remember what you said an hour and 48 minutes ago, even if you don't.
All right. To be fair, anyway, I don't.
On that note, gentlemen, it's a bye from Thunderlips McQueen.
Adios, muchachos.
And it's a bye from Rasta Tweets.
See you all soon.
And it's a bye from me. Bye.
Bye.
Weekly when you need me.